implicate or frame some people, or thinking that some people maliciously are behind what went on. I thought it was very, very ridiculous and unparliamentary of her to do what she did. I don't know, but when I was watching it, I was cranking the whole time, and I was like, who who voted for people like this? Let me go straight to the point. Who voted for people like this? When there is an issue and you don't even know what caused the issue, you keep saying, thank God we found the black box. Let's wait for the black box. So wait for the black box. Don't jump to conclusion. And if you realize, last week on this platform, we said that we're going to wait for the investigations done before we jump to our conclusions. But that parliamentarian, Miss Comfort, should bow her head in shame. That was a shameful act from a parliamentarian. You see, sometimes people think I'm not merciful when it comes to, but if you are occupying a position of power, I don't have to be merciful on you. If you cannot understand certain basic things, like let me wait for the professionals to do their job. And then after that, I can, if there's a blame to go around, then I can talk about it. I've listened to a whole bunch of professionals and people, respected people in our community talking about this incident, and some of them are very circumspect. There was one aeronautic engineer who was questioned, and the guy kept asking, in your estimation, the journalist was asking the expert, in your estimation, do you think this plane or the helicopter went down because of the bad weather? And he said, I can't say anything now until we get the response from the black box, until investigations are done. And the journalist kept pushing. And I kept telling myself, this is a professional. So please, Madame Comfort, I think she's a parliamentarian from somewhere in the Adan area. Shame on you for that interview you did. It's very despicable. Okay, so the other thing I want to touch on too briefly before we go to the NPP primers. It's the statement the youth, some youth, a group of young people did on TikTok. Those despicable statement. I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm just going to talk about what is leading to this trend in our society or in our community. And I put the blame squarely at the feet of what we call the Generation X. I was talking to somebody the other time and I said the Generation X failed their responsibility in training the next generation after them. And that is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing when politicians and grown-ups within our society come to sit on social media, on traditional media, and they spew out things you cannot imagine coming from the mouth of an elderly person. What do you expect? The kids are going to learn. The kids are going to learn. And people do some of these things, and they get away with it by virtue of the position or by virtue of who they know. And you expect something different from the kids? You're joking. You're joking. So if we really want to fix that craziness, We need to check the older generation. And it's, we're going to do a special program on why we think the Generation X have failed this generation in so many ways. Because every generation has a responsibility in bringing up the next generation. So the moment there is a gap, the moment you drop the baton, you don't expect anything good because you did not do your work well. And so I jump quickly to the NPP primaries. Again, we're not here to campaign for anybody. As a matter of fact, I don't believe in any of the politicians. Because I've said this time and time and time again that as of now, we as Africa stands, we don't need politicians. We need leadership in politics. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the issues critically. So one of the things I hear, especially coming from, I know we'll be basing, well, I'll be basing my argument or my submission on Kennedy Japan and Dr. Baumia. So these two aspirants, let me put it that way, have certain group of followers who sometimes I kind of wonder what they think they're doing, what they think they want to achieve, you know. And one of the dishonesty that I basically hear coming from especially the Canada Japan team was the fact that Baumia is a liar. And then again, as I said, we're going to level the playing field. So, you know, sometimes the human brain is such that when you hear something over and over and over and over, it you don't need to struggle to believe it anymore. If you're not somebody who will receive stuff that goes into your mind, you would not think of it, but you believe it right away. You know, and yes, these politicians lie, or no, let me say they say stuff that are untrue, but the issue the Kennedy camp is throwing out there, I think it's an interesting one. So talking about lying or people not saying the truth. And sometimes I keep asking myself, is this person talking from space? We live right here in Ghana. When Kennedy went after Anas, said a whole bunch of stuff. He was taken to court. He could not prove a single one of what he said. So what does it make him? I'm just asking questions. What does it make him? You know, the dishonesty coming from the especially the camp of Kennedy Japan, I think is ridiculous. And they talk about he didn't do anything. He performed abysmally at the elections. Look, let's be blunt and honest. The 2024 election was not between Baumia and anybody. It was the legacy of the NPP, the whole NPP government, led by Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. That was, people voted not because of Baumia, and they know this, especially those who sit and they speak, exposing every strength, every ounce of themselves to speak in that manner, knowing what they know. And that is the biggest dishonesty, which makes me cringe when I hear people speak. You know, when you know the truth, and yet for the sake of politics, you come to sit and you tell me to trust you. On what basis? If anything at all, both of them comes from the NPP government, the NPP party. And I've heard time and time and time and time again where Kennedy is defending the politics of the government. So in any case, this guy was a vice president. That's number one. Number two, which is debatable, he said he was the economic messiah, and he was not in charge of the economy. The Kennedy Japan team knows this. He was not in charge of the economy. He wasn't doing nothing. So for you to have all these information, and because of politics, you come out there to throw it out as if you're being honest and you're being truthful, give me a break. And they talk about, we want a politician who is honest. For me, where I stand and for what I've seen, I would never stick my neck out to say any of the politicians are honest, including Kennedy Japan himself. Again, like I said, talking about Baumia is a liar. He says things he could not um, provide and what have you. In the first place, if he spoke on behalf of the government, he was not in charge. He was a vice president. And these people, including journalists in Ghana, knows the role of the vice president. They know the role of the vice president. Some people will say, why don't you resign then? That's a different discussion altogether. But the meat of the matter is that if we're talking about dishonesty, if you're talking about lying, that is the language of the politicians. And so that should not even be an issue to discuss in the first place. Or let me rephrase that. That should not be an issue. Well, it should be an issue to be discussed. So they will reduce the dishonesty. But that should not be an issue to throw at one party and make it look as if the other party is clean. No, you're not. You're not. So please give me a break. And those of you who want to believe that gibberish that Kennedy is an honest politician, Kennedy is a truthful politician, that's a big lie. That is a big lie, because I just gave you one typical example. He spoke with so much confidence. I have this against ANALYZ. I have this against ANALYZ. I have that against ANALYZ. When it got to the law court where he's supposed to prove, he could not. Not a single one of it was he able to prove. So when you're calling lies, they said what? Take off the mole in your eye before, or the log in your eye before you take off the mole in somebody's eyes. So we're just throwing some of these things out there for people to sift through all this and make a sound judgment. Because the dishonesty, it's making the waters murky, and it's making people not really getting the whole picture. But if anything at all, you look at the characters involved. You look at what you can bring to the table. That is what you talk about in political campaigns, in primaries especially. You look at what you can bring to the table and not attack personalities. Because after attacking the personality, and at the end of the day, the primaries are done, what are you going to do? Leave the party? But that's not my beef. That is the beef for NPP too. But I am talking about the dishonesty within the party. So especially the Kennedy Japan camp, please tone down. And if you want to take off the log, the mole in somebody's eyes, take off the log from your eyes first. Prof, that's my take on that. for now.
Yeah, and I want to come at it from this angle, from the angle of the those who will eventually vote for one of these people. I want to believe they are discerning enough to know that at this point, whenever a party goes into the primaries, we have vested interest, seriously vested interest. Somebody is looking at what he stands to gain after his or her candidate wins the party slot, not primarily what the country stands to gain. So I want to start from that perspective. You should ask yourself why, after the last primaries of the NPP and after Dr. Maumadu Bawumia won the slot, Kennedy Japan threw all his support behind the venerable doctor. So far, I've not seen or heard Kennedy Japan himself throwing shade at Dr. Bawumia or Dr. Bawumia throwing shade at Kennedy Japan. It is just the attack dogs that have been unleashed. And to these attack dogs, the first question you should ask yourself is, why was Kennedy Japan 100% behind Dr. Bawumia after the last primary? So you guys have made the primary battle into just showmanship and vested interests. Because at the end of the day, it is the NPP that wins or loses. And everything that you say against a primary opponent is going to be used against you in the general elections. Because your opponents are listening and your opponents are watching. You are calling somebody a liar. Whether it's verifiable or not, your opponent is also listening and they are going to pick it up. And when you go into the general elections, like Nana, you said, if you lose, are you going to leave the party? If you are not going to leave the party, then please be mindful of some of the utterances that are coming from you. That's number one. Number two, I also want the general public, everybody else on the political scene, to be paying close attention to some of these primaries and watch the individuals that come out and say all these kind of vitriol against each other, and also watch them after the primaries are over and they go into the general election, how they behave towards the opponent that they were calling names. And if you've been paying attention to politics long enough, you will find out that mostly after every primary, they come out and say, oh, we are all one party, let's reconcile, let's go into the general election as a united front, blah, blah, blah. But depending on how harsh your criticisms and your insults were, the one who won the primary slot may decide that you are not even needed. And the party supporters watching from the sidelines, if they are intelligently watching what is going on, might also decide not even to vote for either of you in the general elections. So I concur with you, Nana, on the part that there's no politician who can confidently say that he doesn't lie. There is none. None of them is completely factual. Everybody says what they think the electorate wants to hear. So these are my two takes. The primary voters that are going to vote for the candidates, and then the general supporters of the party who are going to take part in the general elections, they should be paying attention to what these people are saying and understand that people have vested interest And those vested interests might not be the interests of the party or especially the interests of the country. And to those politicians who are sitting on the airwaves, throwing shade and saying things that they shouldn't say, I've said time and again, go back to our idioms, pro, the tongue does not decay. And in the age of the internet, everything that you say will be perpetually relevant. We will pull it up, and we will come and show it to you when the time is due. So a lot of these people on radio stations and on TV stations throwing tantrums and vitriol and invectives against each other, Techrema and Pro, we are waiting. And we will pull it up for you. When the time changes, when the tide changes, and it is your turn, and you come and you say something different, we will be like, have you forgotten that you said this, and that at this particular time? Then we will see whether you yourself, you are honest or not. So yes, take out the mole in your own eyes before you complain about the log in somebody else's eyes. Thank you,
that's
Nana.
that's the proverb, huh? I flipped it. Okay. Would you have anything to say about the videos?
Nana, when you sent me the video, my reaction perfectly mirrored yours. And that's the main reason why I didn't say anything after you said it. But I have an additional problem. Who are these journalists? Where are they educated? Because for somebody to get to the highest positions in traditional media, that person must at least be educated. I'm not talking about schooling, but these people must be educated. Where was the pushback? Where was the pushback?
You know what? I decided not to say anything about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we talk about the lack of leadership in our political space, one of my biggest problems is that impossible. There is no pushback when they are lying.
One of your biggest problem is what? You were breaking at that point, so I didn't hear what you said.
What I'm saying is that one of my biggest problems is the lack of leadership in
Prof, I think we lost you.
Why?
Prof, we lost you for a bit of maybe about 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I just got back home, so maybe it was switching to the house.
Okay. So just repeat what you said.
What I'm saying is that when we talk about lack of leadership in our political space, one of my biggest problems is not the politicians themselves. It is the journalists who make this possible for the politicians to blatantly lie, misquote, or spew out misinformation. And these journalists know enough to push back. They know enough to push back, especially journalists they should, Nana, they should know enough. Look, I'm not talking about a blogger on the street who we don't know. I'm talking about leadership in traditional media, because this lady who is an MP was interviewed by one of the main media houses. She was not interviewed by some random guy on YouTube. And so whoever interviewed her should have known enough to know that when there is a problem, you wait for professionals to actually do their investigation, come out with their findings. And if you have any disagreement with the findings, you say that this is my opinion. This lady never said anything about it being her opinion. She was just talking as if that she knows for a fact that it was sabotage and that people have intentionally decided to kill their political opponents. And this journalist just sat on the airwaves and listened to her and prodding her on. That was my problem. He was prodding her on.
So basically,
Asking,
the journalist was trying to be sensational. That's what I
exactly,
saw. Yeah.
exactly.
And that's the sad part of this whole thing about. That's why I didn't even want to go there. For now, I seriously, I don't see any journalism going on in Ghana. I see media personalities who are, I see bloggers in both because everybody is after the numbers. Everybody's after the numbers. And this guy was being sensational to get the attention and to get the numbers.
And the funny part is that if you do the job right, you will get the numbers. Because discerning people will tune out the noise and actually come and hear the facts.
And the other thing that was bothering me was the fact that, do they have a production team where somebody goes out there, do the research? Sometimes when you have a good production team, your production team can even give you questions to ask. Aside from the fact that you have your own questions, your production team will give you questions to ask. So again, I sound like a broken record, but as I always say, where are the Kwekusechiados of our time?
Yeah, and that's why when you brought out this issue of there being no transfer of leadership, transfer of power from our generation to the next, I was shaking my head because where are the elders in the room? Where are the elders in the room? Nana, consequence is no coincidence. We've said this over and over and over again. Now, I've been talking to a few of my friends and a few of my classmates over this particular issue. And this is my opinion anyway. The journalism is politicized. There are journalists who belong to Party A and journalists who belong to Party B. And whenever there is an issue, instead of being, I don't have, you see, there's a very big difference between being apolitical and being non-partisan. I am not asking any journalist to become apolitical. You have every right to belong to a political party, to like their values, I don't care. Be non-partisan when an issue is on the block and it needs to be chopped up and analyzed. That is my issue. And I will put the blame squarely at the foot of these politicians. I've come to the point whereby I have no sympathy for either of the big political parties or even the figures within the political parties. You go around there and you pay these journalists to push false stories about your opponents. So the opponent also reacts by also having his or her set of journalists, and they are paid for to push bad stories about you, to the point whereby every media house now belongs to one or two political parties. I am of the view that no political party henchman or top dog should even be allowed to own a radio station or a TV station. It's become an issue of conflict of interest. They are not giving us the bare facts and are allowing us to have our own judgment and opinions about the facts. They are spewing propaganda, veiled as information. That's how I see this thing. And now that it is going against Party A, Party B is angry. Why are you angry? You people started this rivalry, but buying out media houses. And so these journalists are bought and paid for. And that may be the reason why they will not even push back. They are not pushing back. You are a person in leadership position. There's a helicopter crash. We found the black box. Every enlightened person knows that the black box contains the most pertinent information that pertains to the functioning of the plane or the helicopter. You are not an engineer. You don't know how to even pick up the information out of the black box. And you are here spewing whatever that comes to your mind, whatever your emotions are at that particular point. Yeah, I understand. We all got emotional about the people that were killed in the crash and that we are in a state of mourning. Do we need to pour petrol on the fire? Do we need to do that?
At the point, I was even thinking she's not being emotional. She's just being... Okay, let me rephrase my... She's not being emotional. She's just being, let me use a good word, a propagandist. Let me put it that way.
And for that aspect, I totally agree with you. It got to a point where I did not understand the locus of what she was saying. I didn't understand. I did not understand. And she's not just anybody. Okay? She's a parliamentarian and a parliamentarian for one of the biggest party in the country.
The ruling party.
The ruling party.
That is where I think the propaganda is coming from. That is why I think she was speaking as a propagandist and not from her emotions. Because anybody, any simple person listening to her would say, oh, since she's speaking from the ruling party, she's from the ruling party, she might have known something we don't know. You know, and then she keeps cutting herself by saying, let's wait for the black box. Let's wait for the black box. Then we'll see what happened. And I'm like, so you have not heard what went on, or you don't know anything, and you are still speaking like this. And again, well, I wasn't expecting the journalist to do anything different anyway. So, yeah, please go on.
And that's also where my problem with the journalist came from.
Yeah, so you made mention of the fact that you think the politicians are the problem. I beg to differ. You as a professional don't allow another institution to taint your professionalism or to taint your image. You don't do that. So the problem is you. So most of these people, that's why I call them bloggers now. I call them traditional media bloggers because I don't see the journalism.
I am not taking the blame off the shoulders of the
politician, that's his deal. That's her deal. He would want to bribe his way. He would want to pay his way. But where is your integrity to say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell the truth to the people. I'm going to ask the questions I need to ask. Look, I was talking to somebody who knows Kwaku Sechiado. Do you know sometimes some of the people he interviews are people he has very good relations with? And sometimes after the interviews, the relationship gets rocky.
Of course,
And
because he's got,
he knew when he
yeah,
was doing the interview that this is going to make the relationship rocky, but he is still doing his job as a professional.
yeah, it is his job. And so after the interview, we can talk or we can decide not to talk. But he's going to do his job. And that's why you keep mentioning him. Kweku Bako is also another
Yeah.
example that
The reason
you keep mentioning.
I don't talk much about Kweku Bako is that he is into print media. So
Yes.
he does not do most of this interviews and what have you. That's why I don't.
Yeah.
But when it
He
comes to the journalism, the excellence, and those, I mean, you can't take Kwekubako, and Anas is in a league of his own. He has created a niche for himself by introducing this investigative journalism in a different dimension. The world has not even known before. And yet, anyway.
well, prophets die before their time and they are never accredited when they are here. So we will have to wait for the verdict on that one. But on the issue of these journalists just allowing people to come on their shows or on their radios and say whatever they want, you could say, this is your opinion, but I need to ask this and this and that question. If you fail to do that, in my opinion, you are not a journalist. You are a
So,
propaganda machine. You
or
are
a
just
blogger.
sitting here. Or yeah, you are just sitting here allowing people to run short over you. That's what you're doing.
Yep.
Because I, as a layman, I've never been to journalism school. I don't know anything about journalism. But I knew enough that when the woman said, let's wait for the black box, my first question was that, then what are you saying? All these things that you are saying, what is it? Is it your opinion or you know something that I don't know? If you don't know the contents of the
And even
black
if
box,
you want to be sensational, I was expecting him to ask, have you heard something or do you know something we don't know?
exactly,
But
exactly.
so that's why I said I wasn't expecting anything different from the journalist because right from the word go, from his two um questions, the first two questions, I knew he was being sensational. He was not doing professional journalism. He just wanted the numbers. He just wanted it to hit the social media platform and people will flock to it, and hear him, or hear the program, what have you. So I knew he was, but the lady, I saw her to be doing propaganda, you know, and she under the guise of being emotional. I didn't see genuine emotions. I saw a propagandist who is trying to uh be why this word keeps coming on my lip, but I don't want to say it, try to be a propagandist. Let me use propagandist. That's a beautiful word. I'm now turning into Trump now. It's a beautiful word. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's the issue of journalism is a big problem now for me in Ghana because I really don't have confidence in yeah, every now there are a few good ones, but again, they're not in the forefront. And I don't know if GJ needs to organize some periodic refresher courses for, or maybe the respective media houses needs to organize. Because look at the journalist who was asking somebody who's lost the only child, how are you feeling? This is you know it's ridiculous. Journalism is a tool to educate the people. You seize every opportunity to educate the people. There was a journalist in the course where he was interviewing this guy, and the guy was like, "Oh, I was one of the first few people who got to the crash site, and I found a watch." And the journalist didn't say anything. Didn't say anything. You know, not even to caution the person. Oh, you don't do that, especially when you go to a crash site. You don't touch stuff. You just wait for the authorities to come in. And then again, the other thing I was thinking about when I watched some of the videos was the oh Jesus, Lord have mercy. The politician, the Eastern Ashanti regional what do they call them? The regional minister was what was his business in the emergency response team? What was his business walking around the investigative site? Yes, you are an authority, but you are not a professional. You leave that to the professionals. And I don't get it where people don't have the courage to tell truth to power. I was expecting a professional to say, you know what? Stay here. We will give you all the information you need. Let us do our job. Let us not contaminate the crash site. You know, but it looks like he was the head of the whole program going on. This is not, we're not doing politics here. This is a job for the professionals to do, you know, and somebody was giving an excuse that they put the remains of the people in sacks because it was going to melt. It's hot, so it was going to melt the body bags. And I kept scratching my head. Come on, man. It's going to melt the body bags. So how about the person who was carrying the thing on his head? It's not going to burn him. So if a human being can hold it and it's not going to get burned, the bag will get burned. Sometimes I'm like, are we talking do they think they're talking to kindergarten kids or I don't get it, you know? So I think we can do better. Let us be able to up our game. Professionals, be professional, do your job. Don't let somebody in power tell you what to do or how to do your job. We should be able to, that's why we have separation of powers. Yes, you're the regional minister, but you don't know what we are even looking for. You don't. So stay away, stay somewhere. You can stay close by. We'll furnish you with every information you need. So at least you can report to your chain of command. We understand, but you're not in charge here. You know, when there's an incident here where I used to work, being the head of a department within that institution, when the professionals show up, when there's, let's say, a fire outbreak or an incident where the fire service shows up, the head is relegated to the background. You stay out of the scene. They will call you when they need you. They will call the shots. They will say, okay, it's safe for you guys to go into the building. And then they will tell you the head, and then you communicate it to your people. Okay, it's safe. We can go back into the building. But you don't have any say whilst the professionals are working because they know what they're looking for, and that is what is going to help the investigation. So please, we need to learn. We need to know, draw the boundaries, know where we have to draw the lines. Yes, I'm a politician. I'm the minister of state or the minister of whatever, but these people have to do their job. Let me allow them to do their job. I'm not in charge. They are in charge. After they're done, they give me the information and then I report to my chain of command. It's as simple as that. So yeah, Prof, the issue of the journalists, it's I'm trying to see if we can one of these days get some journalists to come on the program so we can discuss this issue of the standards of journalism now in Ghana. And I'm not talking about the bloggers, like I said, the social media bloggers, except for the fact that now I'm seeing more of traditional media bloggers as well, who sits in the studios of these traditional media and do their blogging work just for the numbers, but not to educate people, except for the fact that they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes I have the feeling they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes I have the feeling they think they're doing what they've been trained to do. And I was talking to somebody who said, oh, the radio station or the TV station owners should interact with them. And I was like, no, they don't have to, because they're not professionals themselves. They have the
Exactly.
money and they have set up the institution. You went to school for it. That is why you are hired to be there to do a job, a professional job. So you should know better. You don't need the owner of the radio station or the TV station to come tell you, hey, don't do this or do that. So I don't know. I think we need to look at the whole journalism landscape in Ghana and see what can be done. But then again, I blame the Generation X for not training the generation behind them or after them to take over properly. And that's what I see playing out. That's my take on that. Prof, your final statements, and we'll close the
Yeah,
curtains for today.
my final statement is going to be on these politicians who want to be ubiquitous everywhere when there is an issue. My take is that if you have done your job properly, you wouldn't even have to be in that space to begin with. Okay, if you have done your job properly, there is no need for you to be ubiquitous after the fact. Like now, they are going to the family of the people that lost 16 of their children after people had complained. Now you're going there. If you had done your job, you wouldn't have to be there. And Nana, not that I'm going to defend the professionals, they have been put in their place by the authorities and the powers that be.
Yeah, but
This minister,
I want to see a display of integrity. Hey, this is my
yes,
job. All right, fire me.
exactly, exactly. This minister of uh, health went to Tamale, and we saw what happened.
Yeah, the Tamale issue, I think the director needs to be fired. Because
Yes,
when the minister was complaining about you don't have this, you don't have that, I didn't hear any rebuttal from the director. It was rather the doctor who was trying to defend it. I was expecting the doctor to say, hey, last week or a month ago, I did this proposal. I requested for this, I requested for that, and it was not delivered.
and
Then
that's
you
what
were showing something, but it looks like you didn't do nothing, so he had every right to kick you out.
that is why I'm saying that they have been put in their place. The gentleman, the doctor that was able to rebut is somebody who has integrity and he knows he has an alternative to working at the hospital. That's why, as a professional, you should create your own alternatives in life if you really want to work in this space. Because why was the regional whatever doing at the plane crash site? Doing what? What was his reason for being there except to be on TV?
Observe and report.
Observe what? Couldn't he have stayed outside the crash site? You've allowed ignorant people to already destroy the crash site. And you being a regional minister or whatever your position is, who should know better? You are walking around the same site that is supposed to be processed? No. So unless the professionals are afraid of being fired, oh, let me come back to, you remember when the Kumasi Metropolitan Authority, the CEO or the director, or whatever it is, when there was fire at the market, you saw what he was doing. talking about the fire service and asking them, why is this machine here if there's no, why did he need to do that? Because he didn't do his job properly. If the market had been built the right way, if the hydrants or everything obscuring the hydrants have been removed by him, there will be no fire to begin with.
Yeah,
but
he was being a
whenever,
politician though. So.
exactly, whenever there is a problem, they come after the fact and then they want to show their crafty powers. Please, we need you to show leadership before there is a problem. And whenever there is a problem, leave the professionals to do their job. If they do not do their job properly, you take them out there to your boardroom and you chastise them, not in the eyes of the public. And if you have a report, do your report, do something about what to prevent the next tragedy. That's what progressive societies do. Okay, there's no perfect society in this world. Every society got problems, and that's why we have leaders to lead in the charge against these problems, so that tomorrow will be a better society than today. Let me reiterate, the society we want to live in tomorrow is the one we are building right now. And so if you are a regional minister or you are a leader in position and you think that whenever there is a problem, your face should be all over the place on TV, not doing anything, just messing around and just letting people see you, that's not the sort of leadership we are looking for. We want people who are going to solve the problems that we face on a daily basis, not just that you show up and you contaminate a crash site. It doesn't even make sense to me. And that's my final take.
Alrighty, whatever society you want to live in tomorrow, you build it today. So the society we're living in today, it means we didn't build it. Or
We did not.
We destroyed it yesterday. So that's why we are retrogressing today. On that note, we would want to draw the curtains on today's Analyze This. Thank you for being a part of today's Analyze This. Next week, same time, we're going to be here and we're going to continue with the discussion on the political parties and especially the NPP primaries, if we got anything else to discuss. On that note, my name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. and my co-host.
I'm Kojo Frimpong. Thank you.
Both from Africa International Organization and Certo Leadership International. Next week, same time, we will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.